Welcome to the Deep 404. There's two big pieces of news today. One of them, Joe Biden, the United States president, has authorised missile strikes on the Houthis, the Houthi group from Yemen. The US and the UK have together launched strikes on strongholds in Yemen. And still, the lingering question, where is Lloyd Austin? I'll come back to the Houthis in just a moment. There's been another day without sighting of Lloyd Austin or Eric Smith, the Marine General. There was an announcement released on the Department of Defence's website today, allegedly from Lloyd Austin, with him referring to the attacks made on the Houthis. And there has been written that he was involved in the attacks, coordinating across it while in hospital recovering, and that after the attacks he had spoken to some other people. However, there is still at this stage no video, no images of him, and still no detail as to what is holding him in hospital at this time. Reportedly, he found out recently that he had prostate cancer on the 22nd of December last year. He underwent surgery for that prostate cancer. And then on the 1st of January, so 9 days later, he was admitted to the ICU. And he was in the ICU for 4 days or more with complications. So it takes him up to about the 5th of January. And it's now the 12th of January, or 11th if you haven't caught up to where I am yet on the planet. But the 11th or 12th. So that's been another 7 days after ICU in hospital, allegedly recovering, and no sightings of him. There's also been no news today about Marine General Eric Smith. Now, he did have reportedly a heart attack on the 28th or the 29th of October last year, and was in hospital for some time after that, and then was reportedly having scheduled heart surgery at some stage, and that has reportedly been what has put him out of action at the moment, and that may well be the case with General Eric Smith. The reason that I'm mentioning him is that there have been some reports on social media that he may also have been in Kiev with Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin when the first of the large Russian missile strikes occurred around the 28th of December. That was one of the largest missile strikes that Russia has carried out on Ukraine, and there are reports that NATO command centres were targeted in those strikes. And from those reports have grown this theory that perhaps Lloyd Austin and possibly General Eric Smith were in Ukraine at that time, and that they were wounded during those missile strikes and then flown back to the US. If you recall, there's been this controversy around Lloyd Austin not informing his chain of command, the President and the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, those sort of people, of his condition. And that his assistant was sick, they couldn't inform people. And so the story all seems very unusual as to why he didn't tell people, hey, I'm having surgery, and oh, by the way, I got sick, I'm in hospital. There is also, I'm just going to show a video here for you to watch. This is John Kirby, White House spokesperson. Just give me a moment to key this up, and hopefully you can hear this, and we'll just watch it for a second and tell me what you think. Well, apologies. Let's start that again with some sound.
All the questions. Once we found out he was in the hospital, we certainly asked all the questions you would think we would ask to try to ascertain his condition, and what drove him into the hospital. Of course, we were curious about that. He's the Secretary of Defense, and he's a key member of the administration. I would just tell you that effort to try to get more information was overt, and it was genuine, and it was certainly in the spirit of making sure that we understood what was going on with him, and in terms of his recovery. I'll let the Pentagon speak to the information flow, both publicly and inside the chain of command. But I can assure you that that throughout every step of the way, from the time we were notified until yesterday, when we all found out that he had prostate cancer, there was no lack of curiosity on our part, no lack of or slackening of an effort to try to find out what was wrong with him.
So, interesting. My reading of that, my take of that, is that the White House had no clue whatsoever. And it seems like until even chasing up until yesterday, which would be about the 10th or the 11th of January, they had no idea of what was going on, no awareness that he was in ICU or missing. Now, he's in the Walter Reed Military Hospital. So it certainly feels as though the Pentagon has been keeping this very quiet about Lloyd Austin. You would expect that John Kirby, the president, the White House, they would know what was going on with someone who is as high up as the Secretary of Defence. I would imagine they would know if he had if he was feeling somewhat ill and off colour, that someone would be aware of that, because he's a very high profile, important person in the administration, as Kirby said. So for them to have no clue, and then from what Kirby's saying, what seems to be ongoing, repeated attempts to understand his condition, that to me seems weird. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I would have thought it would be, how's Lloyd? He's got an infection after his surgery. Oh, right. Is he okay? No, he's crook with a fever for a couple of days. We took him into ICU to look after him. Now he's all good. You think it would be like quite an easy conversation for Kirby to relay what had happened. Not, we were trying in a genuine way to understand his condition. So who knows? But it's another day without this story being just cleared up with a simple video of Lloyd Austin, even if he's in bed in hospital, picture of him with a laptop coordinating the strikes for the Houthis, on the Houthis, something like that. But it's not there. We haven't seen it. Who knows? Interesting one. And we'll keep following it. In terms of the Houthis, now, I'll read a little bit here. This is this is Joe Biden's statement. So I'll just read through a couple of paragraphs of this. Today, at my direction, US military forces, together with the United Kingdom and with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada and the Netherlands, successfully conducted strikes against a number of targets in Yemen, used by Houthi rebels to endanger freedom of navigation in one of the world's most vital waterways. These strikes are in direct response to unprecedented Houthi attacks against international maritime vessels in the Red Sea, including the use of anti-ship ballistic missiles for the first time in history. These attacks have endangered US personnel, civilian mariners, and our partners, jeopardizing trade and threatened freedom of navigation. More than 50 nations have been affected in 27 attacks on international commercial shipping. Crews from more than 20 countries have been threatened or taken hostage in acts of piracy. More than 2,000 ships have been forced to divert thousands of miles to avoid the Red Sea. So that's Joe Biden's statement. And look, I think a lot of that is correct. What he has said there is the case and does demonstrate the impact that the Houthis have had on shipping. The number rising there now, 27 attacks being alleged there. Since the 7th of October. What, of course, isn't mentioned here is the Houthis' reasoning for doing this, which they've been very clear about, which is that they will stop these attacks when the bombing and the attacks upon Gaza and the civilians of Gaza stops. Now, the UK are involved in this as well, the US and the UK. If you Google around, there's pictures of, I think it's a UK Typhoon fighter launching off of something, big afterburner it looks like behind it. UK sources say that military facilities used to launch drones were what were targeted. The British Royal Air Force said it has conducted strikes against 2 Houthi facilities in Yemen during these joint operations on the southern Red Sea. 4 RAF Typhoon FGR-4s, supported by a Voyager air refueling tanker, used Paveway 4 guided bombs to conduct strikes on 2 of these Houthi facilities. The targets struck include several buildings at a site in Bani in northwestern Yemen. One moment, callers, and I'll give you an indication of where we are talking about here. So this is the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. This is Yemen down here, and this is the area of Abs and Bani around here in the sort of northwestern area of Yemen. Zoom out a little bit here so you can get the full idea of where we are. This is Yemen, Oman, the UAE here, and Iran just across here. The target struck includes several buildings at a site in Banan in northwestern Yemen, used to launch reconnaissance and attack drones. If I just move this again. So this is the Red Sea, this area here. And so the Houthis have been sort of throttling the Gulf of Aden through here, through this choke point, and making their attacks even right up here. Up near Jeddah, where a few weeks ago we saw that very spectacular attack where you saw a helicopter flying in and deposit some Houthi soldiers onto the deck of that ship, the Galaxy Leader, which they then have hijacked. So these UK indicating the sites that they have targeted are ones which were launching cruise missiles and drones over the Red Sea. There is some reporting from the Houthis themselves as to what targets were struck. And so they are saying that the Al-Dalami air base north of the Yemeni capital of Sana'a was struck. Sana'a is just here. Yes, you can see that. Yep, good. Areas surrounding Hodeidah International Airport in western Yemen, Cullen Camp in Sada, a northern Yemeni province where the Houthis are based, Taz International Airport and other parts of the Taz government in southwestern Yemen, and an airport serving the town of Abs in northwestern Yemen, and that's Abs here. So a lot of activity around here. A senior member of the Houthi group, Abdul Salam Jahaf, he has reported, along with others, and these reports have been coming out over just the last couple of hours, that there have been reprisal attacks made by the Houthis on both British and US ships. I can't confirm these, and there is some questioning about some of these reports coming out at this stage. So they may not be true, but some of the reports which are coming out in social media channels from some of the Iranian channels and some of the, I would say, sort of pro-Palestinian, pro-Houthi channels, they are indicating that the Houthis have made reprisal attacks and that those attacks may have been successful in striking either US or UK warships in the area. At this point in time, there have been a number of people I've also seen claiming that these are false statements, and there's been no confirmation of this from the US or the UK. So this may not be the case, or may not be the case at this stage. Perhaps there are planned attacks on the warships in this area. Just to add to what else is going on in this area, so yesterday an oil tanker, the St. Nicholas, it has reportedly been hijacked, and it has been hijacked over in Oman, over here, in just off the coast of Sohar here, reportedly out here somewhere in the Gulf of Oman, and was then rerouted heading towards Iran to Bandar Ijask here, which is a port here in Iran. This is reportedly where this oil tanker has been sent after being allegedly hijacked today. Reports are that men in military uniforms landed on the oil tanker. There has been some talk that this has been conducted by Iran. I can't confirm at this stage if this has been conducted by Iran or by someone else. No doubt more will come out about this. If it has been conducted directly by Iranian forces, that would be a large escalation, at this time. However, there is some history to this boat. The St. Nicholas previously went by the name of the Suez Rajan, and it had been seized by the United States government for transporting sanctioned Iranian oil. Now, today it is carrying oil from Iraq, which was destined for Turkey. So it is possible that Iran have captured this ship in a reprisal attack for the US having previously sanctioned it and seizing it for it transferring what was sanctioned Iranian oil. So could be what is going on there. But a lot is happening. We've got to remember too that this is all coming after the Houthis a few days ago launched what was reportedly 18 drones and missiles. These were reportedly shot down by a combined effort of the USS Dwight Eisenhower, the USS Gravely, the USS La Boone, and the USS Mason, along with United Kingdom Royal Navy destroyer, the HMS Diamond, and aircraft from those ships were reportedly involved in shooting down those missiles. So the Houthis were reportedly trying to attack a pro-Israeli or US ship in the area at that time. So there's a lot going on there's a lot going on in the area beyond just what is happening in Israel and in Gaza and the West Bank and that sort of thing. The conflict is by all accounts beginning to what many people had suggested would happen and what many people hoping would not happen, is that the conflict appears to be widening. Instead of just being isolated around Gaza here, we've now got activity up with Lebanon, with Hezbollah, and the activity by the Houthis from Yemen down here is increasing with the first now US and UK reprisal attacks. Now, Joe Biden has come under flack from a number of senators for this. Allegedly, I'm not American, but this could be considered an act of war, and war cannot be entered into by the president on his own. He needs to go to ask Congress for permission to do that. And that reportedly did not happen here. Joe Biden has just authorized these strikes, and his administration and members of the Pentagon have gone ahead and done that. So that's a interesting escalation itself, if that is what has happened, and you wonder why that happened. If there was strong support within the US to make these attacks on Yemen, you would have thought that by following the protocol of approaching Congress, requesting approval to go ahead with these strikes because they could be considered the launching of war against Yemen. The US hasn't, I believe, been aggressive against Yemen since 2016 was the last time they were involved in strikes there. But you would think that the Biden administration would have followed protocol, kept their fingers clean on this one, but instead they didn't. They've just overridden that. And that may be an indication that there is not, bipartisan support for the US stirring up further conflict in this area. Now, you expect there to be some sort of activity from the US, given the impact that the Houthi activities is having on shipping. And that's exactly what the Houthis are trying to do. I did a video a few weeks back talking about asymmetric warfare, where what the Houthis are doing with their limited supplies, but the oversized impact they're having, is a great example of asymmetric warfare that they're conducting. But you can see again that the US has gone directly for the military option. There hasn't been negotiation with the Houthis to say, okay, look, we will try to work with Israel to stop this bombing in Gaza. You give us a bit of leeway, let some ships through, you cut them down for a couple of days, we'll try and get a peace deal or ceasefire happening, and we'll slowly work our way out of it. No, there's no US working with Israel to try and stop the bombing. That's not going to happen. Instead, we're just going to go and target and destroy Yemeni sites and degrade their ability to conduct their operations in the Red Sea. I don't know what striking these two sites, I don't know what level of degradation that will cause upon the Houthis. When the Houthis are conducting attacks with speedboats. A dozen guys, a couple of machine guns, some speedboats rushing out to a boat, getting onto it. Now, yes, the US has already killed a few of those Yemeni Houthi soldiers, doing that. And that may continue. But you've got to feel that these Yemeni fighters are committed to their cause, committed to supporting the Palestinians in Gaza, and that them losing a few of their members and a few speedboats in these attacks isn't going to stop them. And so losing a couple of facilities where they were doing reconnaissance and launching drones, I don't feel like that is going to put an end to this. I would imagine that the Houthis will continue to conduct these attacks like they have been doing. And if some of these reports that are coming out now, as I was just mentioning earlier, I can't confirm the one that I was talking about, but if, as Abdul Salam Jahaf, from a senior member of the Houthi group, has said that they will or are going to begin to attack US and UK warships in the area, then the escalation is growing in the Middle East. In Syria, there have been further attacks on US troops in eastern Syria. Yesterday, attacks near the Conoco natural gas field in the province of Deir el-Zor, which is where there's a US military base there. Now, the US bases in Syria are considered to be an occupation force. The Syrian government has not requested them there, does not want them there. Even in Iraq, I have read reports in the last day or so that the US forces have been asked to leave Iraq by the Iraqi government, and the US are at this stage saying, no, we haven't seen any request for that, for us to leave. But again, with these escalation, these Arabic nations beginning to be forced together, regardless of what religious differences there may be between some of them, then it seems as though the US is under more and more pressure to move out of Iraq. Now, if they move out of Iraq, if they move out of Syria, then the US is losing its ability to project power in these areas as those forces go. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. Oh, and also there are reportedly now additional attacks on the US bases in Iraq, subsequent to the US and UK strike on the Houthi bases in Yemen. So the whole area, we can see the forces operating in Iraq coming out in support of the Houthis supporting the Gaza Palestinians and the Palestinians in the West Bank. Hezbollah, what seems to be getting forced further and further and further by Israel into a larger response. Now, if this conflict does really grow and expand, then, as I said in a video yesterday or the day before, many people feel that this is what Israel is looking to achieve in this area. If they can see the situation inflame to such a level that the US is drawn right into it, which we're seeing now. They're drawn into Yemen. If Israel can get the US embedded in the conflict in the area, then Israel feels it has a far better chance of achieving its goals, whatever those goals might be in the region. But certainly there are those who would indicate, including some statements made by Benjamin Netanyahu himself, things like he doesn't believe that the Palestinians have a right to a state and therefore a two-state solution won't work, that he perhaps then feels that the whole of the Israel land area should be all Israeli. So if he can't do that, if Israel are struggling to do that on their own, and there has been this report come out this week from a US military think tank, which says exactly that if Israel gets into a full conflict with Hezbollah, then Israel will not be able to succeed in fighting with fighting with Hamas in Gaza and fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon. But if Israel can draw the United States into the conflict with a heavier forces there and US aircraft carriers and perhaps even submarines in the area to assist, then Israel, while the US is preoccupied with that, might be able to continue its bombing of Gaza and continue expelling Palestinians from Gaza and from the West Bank and achieve that goal. Who knows? Anyhow, that's enough for me today. I hope you're enjoying the channel. If you are, please share with people that you think would enjoy some of these episodes. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.